This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast with today's guest, purpose pioneer, Alexandria Agresta.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hello there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I'm Selena Knight, the retail strategist, and thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to learn, grow, and be inspired. Now, in the past week, I have done a lot of my code word for the year, refining. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard of this habit of setting yourself a goal word or goal phrase with which you use to navigate your whole year. Well, I like to do it. I've been doing it for the last couple of years, and this year my word was refine. And that is what I wanted to do 3 years into this business of helping people to grow their retail stores. I've got a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of content. I've got a lot of pages on my website. I've got a lot of webinars. I've got a lot of stuff. And you know, it's kind of like your closet. Every now and then, you just have to declutter. You have to go through, get rid of the stuff that's not working, the stuff that doesn't fit you anymore, the stuff that is no longer useful, and you have to find a new home for it. So over the last few weeks, that's exactly what we have been doing here at Selena Knight HQ. We've been going through our email funnels and really having a look at what the customer experience is like. We've been downloading our own opt-ins, our own lead magnets, and seeing what happens. Now, granted, it's not finished yet. The process is just starting out. But what we found is sometimes in the haste to get things up and running, maybe the experience for the customer isn't fantastic. So for example, one of the opt-ins that we downloaded, the email that went out with it was a bit naff. It just said, hey, here's your resource. And that is not what I want my customers to experience. So with around 200 pieces of content, it's going to take a little while for us to go through and refine it and make sure that there are no broken links and all those sorts of things. But here's the reason why I did it. Not just because we're 3 years in and because I want to declutter. It's the fact that I want to lead by example. I want to show you what works and what doesn't. I want to be there by your side, rallying you on to get to the place that you need to get to, whatever that looks like in your life. And I can't do it if I'm not doing it in my own business, if I'm not sticking by my team and moving our business forward. So the declutter is a great thing for me, and it's awesome for customer experience, which is what I am so passionate about. But it also means that it's going to help you. Now, I don't actually have an opt-in for today's episode. Today's episode is all about purpose and making sure that when you commit to something, you do it with your whole heart. You do it with every fiber of your being, because that is what's going to set you apart. And for me, my purpose is to show you how to get to what success looks like for you. Maybe that means a lot of money. Maybe that means freedom. All of us are going to have a different set of values for what success looks like. And I believe it's my job to help you get there. Which means you can't have really crappy opt-ins cluttering up your inbox. When you get something from me, I want you to be able to take it and use it in order to grow your business. Now, speaking of growing your business, I also wanted to let you know, if you've been thinking that it's time to really focus on what success looks like to you, really focus on setting goals and actually taking the right action that you need to take in order to reach that success, well, you will be pleased to know that doors to work with me have just opened. So a couple of times a year, I open up the doors to my coaching programs, my one-on-one program and my group program. And it's a great opportunity to really put that focus in place to get laser focused in order to grow. So if you think that that's maybe something that you would like to look into, head on over to SelenaKnight.com/coaching and you can have a look at the programs that I have on offer. Now, doors are only open for the next week, so it's an application only process. So if it's something that you've been thinking about, don't leave it too late because the doors will be closed. Head on over to selenaknight.com/coaching and check out what's on offer. Now, as I mentioned, today's guest is Alexandria Agresta, and she is a purpose pioneer. You're probably wondering what that is, but I'm going to let her tell you all about it. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. At a recent digital marketing conference, I know I've been harping on about it for quite some time. At that recent traffic and conversion conference, one of the repeating themes that came up was that in order to grow, it is super important to automate your systems. But whilst automation is paramount to business growth, I feel like some brands have forgotten that customers are real people. And in the ever-changing digital landscape, never has it been more important to build relationships, especially with your customers, and not just databases. So today I have on the show Alexandria from Purpose Pioneers, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about why you're doing what you're doing and how you can use that essence to grow your retail store. So welcome to the show, Alexandria.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to have some awesome, purposeful conversations.
You must get asked this question all the time. You're a purpose coach. Now, did you make up that title?
I think I did.
And what made you think that that's my title, that's my thing?
Oh man, this is my favorite question. So I was really, really fortunate enough to grow up with my dad, and he really always taught me this abundance mentality and doing stuff that's meaningful to you, and the world is your oyster. So I think it was really rooted in me at a young age. But in college, I discovered my purpose, and it really liberated me, and it allowed me to have clarity around my path and what I wanted to do. And the emotions and the experiences I was feeling when I uncovered my purpose, I was like, man, I have to help other people do this. It is amazing. If I could bottle up this feeling and just like give it in a pill form to everyone, I was like, the world would be amazing. So while I was in college is when I started my entrepreneurial path. And it was through my first company that I became very passionate around creating really thriving and purposeful communities. So that's really where it all started. And then it just, the evolution of my journey landed on Purpose Pioneers. And I'm just very, very dedicated and passionate about helping leaders uncover, their why, their mission, their purpose, and then aligning it with every aspect of their company. Because that ultimately not only creates meaning for the leader, but it creates meaning for everybody that comes in contact with the company. So the impact is just through the roof. So I'd say that's kind of where it all started and where I'm at.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper there because you said you found your why in college. That is pretty young. Most people get to at least their 30s, 40s, 50s, sometimes, very late in life. So tell me, what happened? Like, what was the catalyst for you deciding that this is the thing you have to do? Because I'm thinking back when I was in college, that was not on my mind.
Right.
just passing accounting was on my mind.
I love it. Hey, that's a really great question. So, it really all stemmed from personal struggles. And I had moved to Orlando, Florida from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, a cute little town right outside of Philadelphia. And I just kind of felt like I was dumped 1,000 miles away from home. I was away from my dad who raised me. He's my best friend. And I just felt this deep, deep sense of loneliness. And I felt like I had no direction. And that was a little strange for me because, back home, I felt like I had great direction and I was surrounded by so many people that loved me and I loved them. So I felt very outside of my comfort zone. And instead of running away and saying, you know what, I'm going home back to my comfort zone, I decided to stick it out and say, you know what, this is probably the best opportunity for me to understand what's going on in my life and see how I can climb to the top and rise to the occasion. So in that, those deep feelings I was feelings of, loneliness and despair and what the hell am I going to do with my life? I turned to communities. I turned to like-minded individuals, people that I could get that same encouragement and support from that I did from my dad and my family back home. And it was in, those various events and workshops, wherever I was with those communities, that I felt this belonging. I felt like my voice was heard. I felt like, if I said something, I would be valued. I felt significant. I felt like if I missed a meeting, they were going to miss me. And that is when I just harped on this fact of, man, what does it mean to be a part of an awesome community where people feel a sense of belonging? And that is where my obsession just built and grew and grew and grew. And I said, this is at the core of humanity. We want to be heard and we want to be loved. And how can I do this? Like, that's where it all started.
So tell me, I'm curious now, what were you actually studying at college?
Hospitality.
Not some airy fairy, kind of, I can't even think of anything. I don't do the airy fairy stuff, but
nothing really. I mean, I studied hospitality. I was definitely built up my leadership skills and people skills, but I don't know what everyone says that, like, man, did you major in like psychology
philosophy or something?
Philosophy or like something super, super deep. And I was like, no, I didn't. I think, I don't know where it came from. I really think it came from just the way, the environment I was raised in. We just always had these really great conversations about life. And I took that into my adulthood, and I always just ask the question, why? That's my thing. I love asking why. So I think I adopted that in my college career and just always said, why am I doing this? What's going on? Why? And it led me to a really fulfilling life.
So tell me, what was your first job out of college?
My first job out of college, well, I didn't go down any particular path. I was a waitress, a cocktail waitress, server and a cocktail waitress throughout college. And then while in college, I started my very first company. So I was already kind of being my own boss, seeing what it felt like to run something that was my own. So when I graduated, I said, I am going to stop serving within 6 months of today, of my graduation. And I did. Like 4 months later, I hung up my all my serving gear, and I said, I'm done doing this. This was great, but it's time for me to bring value to the market and to the world. And that was the day that I said, I am being an entrepreneur 100%. And here I am.
And what was that? Was that Purpose Pioneers? Was that the first iteration of what you do now?
Yeah, I'd say so. The first, like I said, the first company was My Loop. It was like the community engagement company. So I was still working on that out of college. And then about 6 months out of college is when I started Purpose Pioneers. And I've been doing that full time since we started it with my co-founder.
So how do you sell this to people? Because it's very airy-fairy. And I'm thinking there's a lot of, not just small business owners, but there's certainly a lot of big business owners who would just be, whatever, lady. You can take your airy-fairy stuff and, go and run around in the moonlight with it.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, purpose it's pie in the sky. It's super subjective. It's kind of fluffy. But here's the thing. When a company puts purpose first, literally everything gets better. I mean, I was just putting together a research and data sheet. I just got lost in like a data hole of, what happens when purpose or companies put their purpose first, and it makes their employees never want to leave. They're more productive. They're loyal. It makes consumers not want to stop buying. And all of that actually increases the bottom line. So there's just so many benefits, and it just creates a much more loyal and trusting culture, which I think is really what the economy and the marketplace is moving towards. But to answer your question more specifically, I think we do a really good job of introducing this topic with the business hat on. So we don't get up and, at our workshops and go on this fluffy pie in the sky rant. We say, hey, we beat the objection right up front. We're like, hey, we already know what you're thinking, but we're really grateful that you got your butt in the room. And let's explain what purpose is, and let's make it very, very tangible. So we bring it right back down to earth. We explain exactly what it is, and then we always tie business benefits and always have that business lens on to show them that putting purpose first really does work. We promise, and here's the proof.
Okay, so the people listening are saying, can you explain it to me? They're business owners too, and they're thinking, I still don't get it. So can you just give them that little spiel that you would give, which is what is purpose and how can it benefit a business?
Love it. So, purpose. Our definition is the why behind every decision made. It's the drive that gets you out of bed and puts your clothes on every morning, and it's serving a mission that's greater than yourself. So that's the definition. And then it's tied to three pieces of purpose, which actually comes from a book called The Purpose Economy. For anyone listening, I highly recommend it. This gentleman has been studying purpose in the workplace for a good 2 decades. So purpose is three things. It's personal. How can I activate self-growth? And how can I create meaningful change in my life? Second, social. How can I build community and meaningful relationships around common interests and common purpose? And then third, it's societal. How can I contribute to the well-being of others? So we essentially find purpose when we're growing, when we have awesome relationships, and when we're contributing to, the well-being of our community or the world in some way. So when a company fosters these three pieces of purpose, like I said, I mean, the benefits are just really through the roof. Employees, they have such an emotional connection to their work and to their job that they're incredibly productive. I mean, there's a stat that I was just looking up. There was a 125% increase in productivity in employees that felt inspired. I mean, that in itself, there's upwards of like $300 billion in lost productivity a year in the economy. So that in itself, if purpose could just help with productivity, I mean, all companies across the spectrum would, increase tremendously. Millennials, they're taking about 50% of the workforce right now. They want to stay and they're loyal. They work with their blood, sweat, and tears. They become advocates of your company. And then consumers, I mean, there's tons of reports that consumers, they want to buy from a company that has some sort of social purpose or higher purpose. And they would actually go out of their way to ditch a company that doesn't and then, buy from a company that does. So that's employees and consumers. And then overall, it increases the bottom line. There was a really awesome study that reported there was a 6-time higher return to shareholders of purpose-driven companies than explicitly profit-driven companies. So there's tons of research. I'm like a book right now because I was just doing so much research. But if anyone wants to hear more about all that, please contact me. I could talk about days for how purpose-driven business totally works in the workplace.
Okay, so for the people listening, they're probably thinking like your business owners. Okay, so maybe you're onto something here. How the heck do I work out what my purpose is? And let's just give an example. Say we had someone on the show once who sold popcorn. So say you sell popcorn. How the heck do you work out what your purpose is if you just sell popcorn?
So here's the thing. They're not just selling popcorn. And here's what I mean by that. So in my opening line for when I pitch Purpose Pioneers, I say, people don't buy products, they buy feelings. When people are purchasing something, they want an emotional connection, they want an experience, and they want to be buying something that's bigger than themselves. So if there's a popcorn company and they're saying, hey, we buy popcorn, there's a ton of other companies that sell popcorn. So why would I buy from you? If the company, they need to identify why they're really producing popcorn. Is it to further some sort of higher vision that they have? Do they want to serve some sort of social issue? Do they just want to create a meaningful workplace? They have to identify that, and they need to sell that. So I'm going to give you a really, really great example. Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
Yep.
You know what they say? They don't say that they don't say that they're an ice cream company. They're very active around social issues. They say we're a social justice company that just happens to sell ice cream. Apple, another great example. They said we're a think differently company that just happens to make great computers. So when a company identifies what that greater, deeper purpose is, they must sell that. And then their actual physical product is simply a vehicle for them to further that purpose. And I guarantee you that popcorn company will surpass any other popcorn company if they transform that popcorn into a movement.
So how do you delve into it? I'm sure people are thinking, I can hear where you're coming from and I am 100% agreeing with you, but I've got my logical hat on and people are saying, yep, okay, it sounds good, but I just sell dresses. Like, I don't know, I like my customers and I like them to feel good. but I don't know. So what strategies do you use when you're working with a client to delve deep and to make them pull those emotions and those heartstrings open and actually get across why they're doing what they do?
So it's through a long series and of a lot of deep questions. I would say we're professional question askers. And I think in helping someone, the clients that we've had uncover their purpose, one, it takes a lot of legwork to create that place of trust. So before we even get into talking about purpose, we lay the groundwork for authentic communication. And this ties perfectly into relationships. So we were heavily involved with an organizational psychology group, which taught us how to be incredibly self-aware around our defenses and what triggers us. Because when, I can harness that, and instead of reacting, I can respond, it creates incredible space for a trusting conversation. So we teach leadership teams and companies how to embrace that way of communicating, because that's really the first step, not only in business or on purpose, but just in life. So we teach them how to really use vulnerability and empathy as tools. Instead of saying, leave that mushy gushy stuff at the door, we say, hey, bring it in, let's talk about it in an open and effective way, and then move forward. So the first piece is really, not only are we helping companies systematize purpose, but it's really systematizing vulnerability and empathy and ownership and, quote unquote, the soft tools that they called, or I don't know, the soft skills.
Yeah.
Those are really, those are the critical skills that the companies really, really need to start adopting, to create that trusting, open environment where people feel safe to talk about things outside of work. Because I feel like when we can do that, we can talk about things outside of work. It actually makes work much more meaningful and fun, because people feel like, man, okay, my voice is heard and I don't have to put on, this front when I'm in work. So that's really the first step. And then next, we created our own framework to help guide and facilitate people to understanding, what their deep-rooted why is. So it's really having that framework, a methodology, and a series of highly, highly intentional, meaningful questions that we kind of evoke it out of people, and then we kind of wordsmith their thoughts and help them create some really, really powerful statements around their why.
So what are some of the questions you might ask there?
So always what I get a lot is, when I say, what is your why? What's your purpose? I want to help people. That's always kind of the go-to. And I think it's awesome, because humans, we have that altruistic sense to us. So I think we always, for the most part, we always want to be helping people in some way, shape, or form, or at least helping ourselves in a positive way. So if someone says, I want to help people, I go, okay, so what happens when you help someone? And then they kind of start going down a rabbit hole, and they say, well, it's really great because I get to help them do this. So what happens when they achieve that thing that you help them do? It's kind of like a what happens if scenario of questions. And as I'm going through, I go, what happens if that happens? Why is that important to you? How does that make you feel? And then sometimes a couple of whys in there. And it just helps people get deeper and deeper and deeper and peel off the layers.
Okay.
So those are just some
Can we
examples.
do a little bit of an example?
Please,
I'm putting you on the spot
it's much
here.
easier. No, it's much easier with an example.
Okay, so let's say I have a fashion boutique and I sell clothes. Mm-hmm. So you've said to me, why do I sell clothes? And my answer is, well, I want people to look nice when they walk out of the store.
Okay, so what do you think happens when someone puts on clothes and they look nice?
They'll feel more confident.
So what happens when there's a world full of people feeling confident?
I think lots of things would get done.
What kind of things?
I think it's a lot of the things that would stop, a lot of fear that people have because they don't feel confident stops them from achieving greatness or just putting themselves outside of their comfort zone.
So what kind of world would it be if we didn't have fear and people were putting themselves outside of their comfort zone?
We would probably progress a lot faster.
And why is that important? Progressing faster.
I don't know. Is it important?
I don't know,
This
is
is
it?
this is the thing, isn't it? This is why I want to do a little just a little
I love this.
example.
I love this.
Because everybody's answer is going to be different.
Oh,
What
absolutely.
they think is important is going to be really different. And maybe if we progress faster, we could find a cure for cancer.
Boom. Okay. That's another incredible rabbit hole that we could go down. So why, and then I would ask, why is curing cancer important?
Because
Why does that matter?
people deserve to spend as long as they possibly can with their loved ones and to achieve the things that they want to achieve in life. I think that's important because people want to spend as long as they possibly can with their family and their loved ones and to achieve what they've been set on this earth to achieve.
Boom. And that right there is an incredibly deep thought that we would expand upon.
Wow. Who thought
So,
selling dresses was so important?
exactly. And everything that, all those series of questions that you answered, we get to the fact that you're not selling dresses, you're selling a feeling. Or maybe you're selling what you were talking about around that everyone deserves to spend the time with their family and really serve what their purpose is. So you're not selling dresses, you're selling a feeling, you're selling confidence, you're selling the ability to achieve your dreams. And oh, by the way, we sell really beautiful dresses. Do you want to buy one? It's a total mindset shift. It's fighting the urge to think with the logical, rational mind and really utilizing the part of our brain that expresses emotion and learning and harnessing that to build relationships and build a very, very powerful brand that will win every single time.
So how do you translate that to not sound like just another company who spouts off with some social cause? Like let's take that example. And what would you say becomes the purpose? How do I take that and meld it into something that I can use to make other people's lives better, but also to increase my sales and my brand exposure?
So for the dress company, if maybe the purpose was, I'm just going to give a hypothetical example.
Yeah.
Maybe this dress company is like, you know what, I want to, what's a kind of underpoverished, maybe somewhere in like Africa where there's not a lot of education. Like, you know what, I really want to build up, some sort of educational platform for girls who don't feel confident in their knowledge. So maybe if that was the greater purpose, they would be selling confidence in not only the way that they look, but the way that their mind feels. So they're selling that mind body confidence. And once again, they just happen to sell dresses. So it all comes down to telling that story. If they cannot be marketing, oh, we sell beautiful dresses, buy 2 for 1, get all the awesome deals. People don't care about that stuff anymore because guess what? There's an abundance of solutions for all of our needs. I can go to a shopping mall and there's 10 million different stores with all kinds of dresses. So we have to connect on that deeper level, and it has to be portrayed in all of our branding and all of our messaging. So if I'm, X, Y, and Z fashion boutique, when people say, oh, what do you do? I would probably say, you know what, I sell confidence in your mind and your body. And they would go, what? Tell me more. Say, well, I create experiences where young women can feel empowered and they can further blah, blah, blah. And they would probably go, oh my God, tell me more. What do you do? Oh, I just happen to sell dresses and they're on sale right now. Do you want to buy one? And by then they will be incredibly emotionally hooked and they will most likely buy one of your products. So to answer your question, it really just all comes down to fighting the urge to think with that rational mind and really embracing the emotional mind and communicating that to all stakeholders.
Does there need to be a social cause attached?
No. And that's a great question. There doesn't. There's actually 4 pieces to social enterprise. And one of the pieces is called conscious capitalism. And that's actually what Purpose Pioneers falls under. And what conscious capitalism is, it's a belief that a company has a higher purpose and that they can create meaning and value for all stakeholders, not just shareholders. So there doesn't have to be, oh, half my profits go to this cause or I'm solving this social issue. It could just be as simple as, we believe in something higher and we want to create a really meaningful workplace and a meaningful place for our customers. So here's our purpose and here's our product. There doesn't have to be any of that social element related to it.
Do you think that there's a certain type of person who automatically thinks this way? I don't know if it's just me. I think a little bit differently to everybody else. But I remember,
and that's okay.
when I opened my first store, it came from a lack of, this was back in the days of the early internet. You had to buy these things online. So I wanted to take them offline and into a bricks and mortar store. But my whole purpose for opening that store was to give new parents a community where they could feel safe to learn new things and, express. It was eco-conscious baby products. So, express their inner hippie without being criticized or judged, and just to know that somebody was there to talk. And it was one of the things that I think really helped our brand grow. And I still remember to this day, a lady who came into the shop, we'll call her Jane, and she wanted to buy a baby carrier. And she said to us, and it was one of those things, it was just so divine. We had this big problem. One of the girls got really sick. She had to go home and the shop was closed for an hour while the next person got there. And this lady turned up in that short period of time while the shop was closed. And she called our other store and said, literally in tears, I'm outside your shop. I need to get a baby carrier. When is it going to be open? And we said, just stick around. The girl's on her way. She'll be there shortly. And in the end, it was me that ended up going over there. And she explained this situation where her daughter had just had a baby. And for all intents and purposes, because my child was the same, I was pretty sure this child had silent reflux because it sounded like everything I had been through with my baby. Yeah. And she said, I said, why do you need a baby carrier? And she said, oh, my daughter has just had a baby. She's had to move in with me. It was like a week in. She's had to move in with me. Her husband's just left because this baby does nothing but cry constantly. Oh, and the only time it's happy is when she picks it up. And I'm like, dun, like I've heard this story before. I've lived this story before. And I said to her, look, I'm not a doctor. It just sounds to me like sorry, she didn't come for the baby carrier. We sold her the baby carrier. She came for sheets because the baby had reflux, but she didn't know that. And I said to her, I think you should try this baby carrier. So we got her the sheets and I said, look, just take one of our trial carriers home and try it out. And she did. And she came back a couple of days later and she was like, this has changed our lives. Like, I need to buy one because this has changed our lives. My daughter feels like she's emotionally attached. Obviously the baby's upright, so she's not vomiting so much anymore. And I'd said to her at the time, this sounds like my baby. I think it's reflux. It's not just your baby sicking up after, So we had this great big conversation and she came back a couple of weeks later and she walked in the door and I saw her and I said, oh, you must be Jane's daughter. She's told us so much about you. And she said, no, it's me. It's Jane. And she looked 20 years younger. Like I honestly thought it was her daughter. And she came in and she said to me, you can't understand what you've done for my family. The fact that you were there to listen to me, the fact that you could hear what my problem was and you offered me a solution and you didn't make me pay for it at the time because we had these carriers that you could trial. And as a result, yes, the baby was diagnosed with reflux. She's on some medication. She doesn't cry as much, but she really likes to be held. So the carrier means that mum can, go about her life. Dad has come back into the picture. Dad wears this carrier. I need two, she said, one for the mum, one for the dad.
That's awesome.
I know. And, Dad's come back into the picture because he realized it was all just overwhelm and whatnot. And she's like, you don't understand that you put my daughter's family back together. And that just makes you cry, right? You just think, well, all I wanted to do was to be there for the people and to create a community. And it just, the fact that all these years later, I still remember that story, even though it was slightly confused in my head.
So here's the cool thing. That was a purpose-driven company and you may not have even realized it. You weren't selling baby carriers. What you said was beautiful. You said, I wanted to create a community where these parents felt safe and that they could talk about their issues and I could really hear them. Like, you were not a baby carrier company. You were a, I don't know, first-time mom community company, whatever the verbiage is. But that right there, that's purpose. When she came and she wanted to talk about she was experiencing, because a lot of times we buy out of pain. Like we're like, we need
Yeah.
this problem solved now. And I know when I've experienced when people actually hear me and my voice is heard and they can really tie in a solution that fits my needs, I'm going to, one, remember them forever. Two, I'm going to rant and rave about them and probably hopefully bring them more business. I mean, it's a domino effect. So you exemplified that even before this was probably a thing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So do you think that that's really important to get your purpose sorted out before or before you hire any more people? If you already have people, that's great. Hopefully they've already bought into what it is you do. But do you think having this purpose will attract a certain type of person that will help your business grow?
Yes. If I could say yes a million times over, I would. It is probably the most, and I know I probably sound totally biased. I am a purpose coach, but out of all of my working for many, many different companies and seeing other people work for companies, I found that the common denominators, the ones that people leave and aren't happy, is they don't have a sense of purpose. It is probably the most important thing that a new entrepreneur or a company could uncover and clearly articulate and help their employees really feel that sense of purpose. And here's the thing. Another thing that we're really trying to solve is there are definitely, other coaches and consultants that come into companies and they do this yearly hurrah around mission, vision, values, and they get the company amped up and everyone's excited and feels inspired, but it fizzles away. It is so imperative for leaders, especially, to talk about this stuff every day. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had the same conversations over and over and over again, but I'm putting it through my filters new times so new things arise. Like, the leaders that talk about their purpose every single day are the ones that are sustaining and thriving and making more money and making more impact. So it's the most important thing that really anyone can do in business or in life is figure out what their deep-rooted purpose is and then infuse it into their daily lives.
So if you do that, do you think that your team needs to be rewarded for when they do something that reinforces the purpose, or do you think them just doing it is enough?
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I think having incentives and celebrating people. I don't like to say rewards. I like to say celebrate. I think is amazing, and to have that encouragement. But the cool thing when a company has a sense of purpose, people find meaning in the most minute tasks. They go because they know that task means something much 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 bigger. They're not just inputting numbers into an Excel spreadsheet. That may be that that task may be helping, if we're going the social route, that may be helping someone put food on the table. That may be helping solve some sort of issue in another country. That task may be helping build an incredible community around a certain topic. Like whatever it is, when we talk about what the purpose is, it makes those annoying little minute tasks so meaningful that people don't need to be rewarded because they feel that sense of meaning and fulfillment all the time. And then that's amazing because as leaders and as a company, we just get to celebrate them and say, wow, thank you for being awesome and furthering the purpose. It could be as simple as that.
Interesting. Do you think that you can build a community out, so say a community of customers just based on talking about your purpose alone, or do you think you have to do more in order to get people inside of your tribe?
So look at Elon Musk with Tesla. He every time he starts one of his talks, his purpose is he wants to wake up and be excited about the future. And he wants to create a world where people feel that way. And he has such a, I mean, Tesla is not profitable and they're one of the most valued stocks on the stock market. I mean, that really says something. Elon has infused such a tremendous sense of purpose. Like, I mean, he supersedes purpose. He's on like some sort of alien level with what he's doing. It's amazing. But I mean, I am in love with what he's doing because he has that sense of purpose. And yes, to answer your question, yes, someone can just simply say it and talk with conviction and passion and show people that they're acting in their purpose, and it will build a loyal community. And people don't. That's it. Like that in itself can do just the trick. And then you just get to build from there and do other awesome things. And it works even with Purpose Pioneers. I mean, for the past 6 months when we were building things up, we just got up and talked from the heart and with conviction, and we just wouldn't stop speaking our truth. And now we have an incredibly loyal community, and they just say, man, just keep being who you are and keep spreading this message. That's what it does for me. So yes, just clearly articulating it could go such a long way, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping people formulate the thoughts and into words.
If you could say to the people who are listening, if you could just do this one thing, that is obviously not find your purpose, because that's the overall goal of the conversation. But if you could do just one thing, it will literally have the chance to change your entire life. What would that one thing be?
Go on YouTube and type in How Great Leaders Inspire Action by Simon Sinek. It is an 18-minute YouTube video that changed my life and inspired and empowered me to start Purpose Pioneers. And it's an incredibly simple and powerful framework that can help people start exploring how to find their purpose and how to create a really powerful purpose statement. I couldn't say it enough. Please, if you're listening, watch it. It will change your life. And then let me know.
I don't know if I've watched that one, but we'll certainly find it and we'll pop a link to it in the show notes.
Please,
okay.
yes.
Because you are so big on community and you are so big on purpose, tell me, what is your favorite store?
My favorite store? Oh man, that's a great question. So my favorite so does it have to be a physical store, or can it be
either? Either.
Okay. Let me think about that. So one of my favorite brands, I would say two. So I already kind of mentioned this, Apple.
Mm-hmm.
I love Apple, and I really love what they stand for and how Steve Jobs created this company on a belief that people could challenge the status quo. So I am a loyal Apple fan, and I have all Apple products. And I have an Apple Watch, even though I really didn't need to buy it. I was just so bought into their purpose. And then second, I really like Michael Kors. So I only have 2 products from them because they're a little pricey. But when I go into their physical store, it's definitely an experience. And when I went in for my very first time, I was like, I'm an adult. I'm going to buy my first big girl watch and my first big girl wallet. So when I went in there, I was just, they didn't treat me like, I was a young college kid. They just treated me like I was another person interested in their stuff. And I got this really luxurious experience. And when I have my watch on, it makes me feel like very sleek and professional, and kind of like that big girl feeling like, I'm a badass entrepreneur and I'm going to get stuff done. So I love them because of the feeling that it gives me.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is.
It's about the feeling, right back, a great big circle that you just went through there.
Yeah.
It is about selling the feelings.
It is. I love it. Like, people buy things because it makes them feel something, and the symbols that they're buying, it allows them to identify and show the world who they are. I mean, if you look at all the things that I'm wearing or my whatever stickers are on my laptop, those are opportunities to show people what I stand for. And that's why I'm so passionate about companies really talking about their values and purpose, because that's an opportunity for people to identify with what they believe in too. And then full circle again, it creates one powerful, meaningful community.
I love it. And I know that you have a fantastic little freebie that you're going to give the people who are listening. So what is that called?
Oh, yes. It is called 3 Ways to Ignite Your Millennial Workforce. So this is tied to employee engagement and how to really attract and retain the up-and-coming workforce, millennials. But I think it really ties into the 3 tips that we give away. It just ties into the 3 pieces of purpose. So I will definitely shoot that over to you, and I would love to give that out to anyone listening.
Thank you. We'll certainly pop that into the show notes. Thank you so much. I think people have listened to this and they've been inspired to actually think a little bit deeper about why they do what they do.
Yeah, I mean, that's my hope. And whatever anyone's thinking right now, just ask yourself some more deep questions and peel off those layers. I know when I can get deep into thought about my why and my purpose, I mean, the realizations I have are really profound, and they help me better understand myself. So yeah, just keep asking yourself questions and thinking about deep stuff, and talk about it to your loved ones and see what they have to say. I think it would be some really cool conversation that would come out of it.
I know, I think that's a great like after dinner conversation with a glass of wine. And someone saying, but why? But why?
I love it.
Maybe you can try that at your next networking event and see if you scare
Yeah.
people off or if they become deeply attached to you.
Yeah. Love it.
Thanks again so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. It was such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for having me on.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selenaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.